Hi there. Hey, my name's Rich Severson, and I want to show you an amplifier that I'm really jazzed about. It's the Quilter amp. It's designed by Patrick Quilter, and this little guy I saw at a guitar show, and I just couldn't believe it. I've played a lot of amps in my day, and getting older, I like the idea of a real light one. But every one that I've played, they've all been disappointing in sound until this. Now, I guess it uses some kind of special third generation technology, which has some kind of analog preamp and then some switchable mode amplifying section. This is 100 watts, believe it or not, through an 8-inch speaker. Now, my first impression is 8-inch speaker, that ain't going to make it on live. Now, ironically, I just got done recording an album that I ended up using a Super Champ on. Actually, a couple of my amps weren't working so hot. And the studio had this Super Champ, little 8-inch speaker, and I used my Johnny Smith, and I got a nice tone. Now, so normally I would blow off an amp like this because what I'm used to, I like that kind of bigger sound. I like the sound like Wes Montgomery had. And I did a little research on him, and I guess he used a Fender Deluxe in the studio with a 12-inch speaker, a lot of times anyways. And anyway, I always used a Fender Deluxe or a Fender Vibrolux. I use that as well. And I've been using those amps for years. Also have a custom built one for some rock and roll things. Ray Lotvala has built me a beautiful amp. But for the jazz gigs, man, I just get so tired of lugging those amps around. When I got this and I took it on the bandstand, I just couldn't believe it. This thing has got a lot of power. And as you know, for jazz guys, what you're looking for is you want clarity. We don't want any distortion, especially any kind of distortion that is from the transistor amp. That's the worst. So this amp, though, is incredibly clean. Let's go in tight. Let me show you a couple of features on this that I'm really digging. Okay, so close up, let's first take a look at this amp. It's divided into two sections. I've got my channel 1, channel 2. Channel 1 is very clean. I think it's voiced a little differently. I can access channel 1 through the mode button here. Put it to channel 1 clean. And then, even though I'm plugged into channel 2, it's going to access that. I can control the volume there. This will enable me to toggle with the foot switch between two channels if I want to set one for distortion, one for clean. I like to use this channel, and it's all set up with this input here as a mic and line input. So I use it to run tracks. I've even plugged a mic in there and sang a couple songs. Now, what's cool about this amp is it's right here. I've got the full EQ. You see that right there? And full EQ means I've got all the frequencies. It's like a PA system or something going through, and it brings out all the wonderful characteristics of a jazz guitar or an acoustic guitar. Channel 1 is generally used for an acoustic, a nylon string or whatever, but you could do it right like this with the full EQ, and that's a nice sound. But for me, I like to grab this classic sound right here, and this is of a sound that I'm used to, which is more almost a Fender sound. Now it's got another switch on it called Tweed, and it cracks me up. This thing sounds like a Tweed amp here. And this, well, I like to use it when I'm playing with a piano player because the guitar is more even and less bass notes, less bass frequencies. I can crank the volume up a little more, cut through the band a little better. Then it's also got this mini knob, which is kind of funny. Makes the guitar sound like a little, I'm playing through an 8-inch speaker. This does not sound like an 8-inch speaker when I've got it on this full or classic tone mode. It sounds like a 12. So I'm really happy with this. Presence knob, it's got a reverb where I can set the dwell. I like a little reverb. There's just no way around it because I'm a product of the 60s. I got to have some verb, even when playing jazz. And I know that's not pure, but that's how I like it. And it's a nice reverb. It's got that springy kind of sound. So it's not that digital reverb, but it's more of a very authentic reverb. Tremolo button. I like this every once in a while because I like to play. Enough of that. Anyway, I like a little tremolo every once in a while just to break things up on a solo gig. It's got a limiter. I like this feature because I always, generally if I have a pedal, I'll play with some limiting just to even out the guitar, smooth out the higher notes. So I like to include that. You've got your treble, mid, bass, and then your gain frequency to overdrive the amp. Now this has got a very authentic sounding overdrive. I can do it that way, and then I can put this on different settings, hot, loud, or whatever. I don't know what it all means. It just gives you other sounds. And we can play a little blues. It's a pretty authentic sound. Oops. Overdrive. What's that? A little more distortion than that? By the way, if you're hearing distortion, it might be coming from the mixer, you know, when I'm not intending it to be distorted. There we go, that's a nice sound. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of fun every once in a while to do that. Get it out of your system, then go back and play some nice jazz. So anyway, there's a little close-up version of it. Now, as you know, the worst thing that can happen to a jazz guitar player is the feedback issue. And, you know, this is a John Pisano Eastman. It's a very alive guitar. And most, you know, I play the arch tops, and they're all like solid tops, most of my guitars. And they'll feed back. This amp, I guess being low to the ground, plus it's at an angle, which is nice, because I always have to tip my amps back. This I don't have to. But being low to the ground, and I don't know, the EQ of the cabinet or whatever, I'm not getting that feedback issue. And here's the other thing. When I play with my little trio, or even a quartet, I'm always hearing, you know, if the drummer can't hear me because I'm not playing loud enough, or the speaker's too directional. It's going out to the crowd. So I always got to turn it towards him a little bit. I'm not getting that with this. So I think that the amp has got a lot more dispersion. It's just, it's a crazy, stupid amp. In a good way, by the way. Now, I've played, let me show you the gigs I've played with this. I've played trio gigs, guitar, bass, and drums, quartet gigs with a piano. I've played a big band, or a mini big band. I just got done playing a Ella Fitzgerald tribute show with a full rhythm section and 4 horns. On stage, this has got a line out, so the sound guy just took a line out. Plenty of power. I was always worried about this. When you get the power up and you start distorting, you think you're going to, or it's going to start distorting, but I haven't had that issue yet with it. And that was a pretty loud gig, so even though it was a jazz kind of thing. So I've been very pleased with this, and they really seem to be a straight-up company. Give you a money-back guarantee if you don't want it. Now, let me just play a couple things. It's clean, it's quiet. Well, I've had some issues with some other amps that are just a little noisy. Now, this is a John Pisano, and a good sound starts with a great guitar, right? You got it, that's number one, but the guitar is half the equation. You got to have a great amp to go with it. I'll tell you. So, if the marriage of those two things are really important. I think anybody, if you want that jazz kind of thing, man, you're going to be very happy with this amp. Now, I'll tell you what, before we close here, I want to get another guitar out. Okay, here is a Johnny Smith that's been, actually it's a Super 400 with the dimensions of a Johnny Smith. It's got a Super 400 sticker. But look at, this is what, the standard. It's in like a L5, Super 400, it's an expensive, great sounding axe. When I first heard this thing, I thought, man, that's the best guitar I've ever heard. Now I ended up owning it, which is the greatest thing there. Now, this amp sounds great with this guitar. And you dig the West stuff? One thing I've noticed about some amps is a lot of times with the humbuckers, and you're really driving that thing, you can pull out distortion. I haven't noticed that with this. It's very clean. So I'm very pleased with this amp. And anyway, let me play now something. I'm going to use some tracks. I'm going to plug them into the #1 channel here, and then I'll play it out of #2. And by the way, I wanted to say this too. I took this to a gig. I had a little EV PA speaker with a 10-inch, put it over there, plugged it into the back, put a mic on there. The vocalist, it sounded great. So I even played the guitar through it. And there's smaller gigs, man, there's no reason to be hauling a bunch of junk around, bunch of gear, schlepping that stuff through a casino. It ain't pretty. Anyway, let me play something with a track. Okay, now I've plugged my band in the box with the real tracks in there, And I'm going to go ahead and just start playing. Let's do a little one-note samba. And if you listen to the tracks here, and I hope I'm not overloading this, nice bass response. I can hear that he's playing brushes. Piano sounds pretty. So it's a full-range speaker. It doesn't have a tweeter though, but I don't think you need it. This is just a nice fat sound. Still got a lot of high end. Sweet. Okay, well, you're looking at one happy customer here, and I just wanted to share this with you because I get calls all the time. What amp? What's a good amp? Guys are stuck on what amp to buy, and it's always a hit and miss. So this company, you can try it out. If you're not happy, send it back. And I think, anyways, I take that back. I know that. Anyway, give it a shot. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.